Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the St. Pete Soul podcast. I am super excited to have Nicole Choate here with me today with Nicole Lynn Interiors. And she creates beautiful and livable spaces with her signature look of modern coastal. Hi, Nicole.
Hi there. How are you?
I'm awesome. Thanks for being here.
Yes, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, I feel like we're cheating a little bit today because we're actually really good friends. So hopefully this is just a fun conversation that everyone gets to peek into.
Yes, I agree.
And I know you can't really see my office from this angle, but I credit you for creating my beautiful space in here. So I love it. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Well, let's get started. And I would love for you to share just a little bit about yourself, kind of like your background, where you're from, that kind of thing. So take
Okay,
it away.
awesome. So I am originally from Michigan, a small town in Michigan. I graduated from high school with like 90 people or something like that. So just a really small town. Everyone knows everyone. Not a lot going on there. Like no Starbucks within an hour, no mall within an hour. So it was really in the middle of nowhere, Michigan. Loved growing up there though. And then in college, I studied abroad in Australia, and that really opened up my mind to the world, like that there's other places besides Michigan, and you can live in a different climate and all of those different things. And so I actually ended up moving after I graduated to Norway for a year. So through connections in Australia,
Oh,
I
I
ended
don't
up
even think
moving
I knew
there.
that.
Yeah, yeah. Uh-huh. And so I was an au pair there, which is really interesting. It's basically like a nanny, right? So it's like a cultural exchange. But it was great. I lived with a host family. I got to travel Europe, but it just again really opened my mind. Obviously, like Australia and Norway are so different. So especially the climate. And so I realized when I moved back to the States that like I had to be somewhere warm. I was just so much happier there. I was born in the wrong climate. So I moved to Naples, Florida, because I had some friends down here. So I lived in Naples for 4 years or so. I met my now husband at work, and he got promoted, and it took us to Denver. So we moved to Denver, Colorado, and we were there for 5 years. And again, it's cold. So we moved back here finally a couple years ago.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. So so what made you pick St. Pete out of, I mean, gosh, like now you've lived in so many different places, like you're very cultured. So what makes you pick St. Pete over all of these different places?
Yes. Well, a couple things. So we happened to get married here, which is really cool. So it had like a special place in our heart, right? But we really didn't spend a lot of time down here. When we were in Naples, I think we came up here maybe twice.
Mhm.
But I was researching places that are warm with like a lot of small businesses. Like we love breweries, we love really good food. There were like a lot of requirements after living in Denver because we really loved the culture there. And my husband
Mhm.
especially loved it and didn't really want to move. But it was important to me to get back to nice weather and, just be back where I wanted to be too. So we could like had to compromise. And I just did a lot of research, and I realized that St. Pete is really like the place to be. I mean, it's got all the culture, it's got soul, like you always say, Brittany. It's true though. It's different than anywhere in Florida. It really is. Like in Naples, for example, everything's like in a strip mall. It's all really nice. It's beautiful, and they do have good food down there and stuff. But it's just the feeling here is very different. So ultimately, I convinced my husband to set his sights on finding a job here, and it took a while, but we're here,
Yeah.
and I'm never leaving.
Me neither.
Yeah,
Don't tell my family.
yes, we're here forever.
Yeah. Okay, so what year was that you moved to St. Pete?
That was 2 years ago. So it was right at the beginning of it was January 2020.
Okay.
So right before the pandemic hit.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I've heard
Hmm.
so many stories of that with people. You move somewhere and then COVID hits. So
Yeah.
it makes it a little challenging. Um, cool. Okay. So for you, you've been in like the corporate world. and now you have your own business. Talk a little
Mhm.
bit about like that transition from the corporate world to the business, and kind of what sparked that idea and that change.
Yeah, definitely. So it's interesting, like going backwards. So in Denver, we bought our first house. So we got married in St. Pete. At the same time, we bought a fixer upper, and then we just completely gutted it. We renovated it all, and I loved the process. Like everyone was like, "Oh, it's so stressful. Like you've got all these people in your house. Like they're tearing the floors out, and it's a disaster." And I was like, "It's so much fun." And I loved every single second of it. And through that experience, I actually ended up having a lot of like friends and family ask me to help them. This is like a very similar story to a lot of interior designers or career changers, right? It's like on accident.
Yeah.
And so I was just like helping them. I was like, it was my favorite thing to do. So everyone was like, should I get this? Should I get that? It was like all my texts were basically that, right? Um, and then our house was done. We ended up selling it and moving here, and we decided to build a house here. And so I went through that entire process, which of course I loved as well. It was stressful, but it was so much fun. And while I was in Colorado, to just get through the winter time, I decided to take an interior design course that was online. And so it was just something fun for me. I love learning. So I was like, I'm just going to do this while I'm working in my corporate job. Because what are you going to do in the winter time if you don't like winter and you don't ski and you live in Denver?
Yeah. Yeah, true. If
I
you
was
don't
like,
ski, it's kind of
yeah,
challenging.
I know. I was like, I'll just study interior design. So it was just supposed to be like, I guess like a hobby. I wasn't even trying to like make money or anything. But the more I got into it, I realized the course I took had a lot of content and details. It actually took me 2 years to get through it because it was so much. But I decided, I guess, somewhere along the line, like maybe this could be like a side hustle. So it was, I don't know, it just all the stars kind of aligned. And about 2 years ago, when I first moved here, I was like, I'm just going to start this and see where it goes. Um, and here I am.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's been a lot to like, it took me a long time, I guess, to accept the fact that like I was going to leave like a very stable career, one that I'd built for so long. Because I worked in corporate America for 10 years, right? And like I climbed the corporate ladder, if you will. Like I was doing all the right things. I had a team, as working remotely. Like on paper, everything was great. I just like knew inside that I really wanted to do something else, like something creative. And so here I am.
Yeah. Well, like you're not alone in that, right? I mean, there's so many people that have, been in that corporate world and they're dreaming of starting their own business because of this passion. So, I mean, kudos to you because it takes a lot of courage to like take that step. And like what are some of the emotions that you went through when you like officially, because you like quit your job, right? So you kind of
I
just
did,
you
yeah.
jumped in
So
with both feet.
yeah, it was like 2 years in, right? So I had several projects that were going. Like at this point, I had already like registered my LLC. Like I was a business. I had business cards. I had like a secret Instagram and Facebook that people that didn't know me would find me through. But I didn't really tell anyone because again, it was just kind of like a hobby and something fun for me to do. But then, it started getting more serious and I was getting really busy. And so for my corporate job, I had to travel a lot. And so during the pandemic, like we weren't traveling, but
Mm.
then we were going to have to start traveling again. And I had all these projects going. I was like for interior design and I was trying to figure out how can I step away, from these projects that I'm doing and fly across the US for this other job that I have. And it was just a lot. And so there were some transition or some changes, I guess, going on at the company and that I worked at. And I just had a lot of conversations and I just felt like it was almost like meant to be that it was a good time to exit. So, I fulfilled my duties there and just took kind of the leap of faith. And, it was scary for sure. But ultimately, I'm like so glad that I did it because it's what I want to do. I love it. And I just want my business to continue to grow, and I'm so happy, right? Like I don't miss that at all. It's such a strange thing. I was like, maybe I'll miss it, but not yet.
Well, yeah, it was meant to be.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yep.
that's
I
super
think so.
cool. So yeah, so talk about like what's your inspiration? Like kind of where do you get some of your ideas from, or does it really come from like the clients that you meet with? I mean, talk a little about that like idea and design process.
Yeah, definitely. So I get inspiration everywhere. It's really interesting, right? So it's like I'll literally, one of my favorite things to do is to walk around my neighborhood. I live in Magnolia Heights, and then like Woodlawn is just across the street basically. And all the houses are so cute. And I just walk around. I don't know, it's like where I do all my big thinking. That's what I always say. And so I just get inspiration from that. I love it. Just, going to the beach, traveling, it's obviously like a big part of me and my history. And everywhere that I've gone, there's been like a piece that I've taken with me that I love to, put into my designs. But at the end of the day, it's always about the client. And so I get a lot of inspiration based upon theirs, right? Like we go through Pinterest boards, or like sometimes they'll just have like magazine clippings that they want to show me, or they'll talk to me about a feeling that they want. And then the fun part is that I can then like make that a reality for them through like products and things like that. So it's really everywhere. But I mean, even a lot of it's just here in my backyard for sure, like just walking around St. Pete.
Yeah. Well, so like your kind of signature look is that modern coastal, casual, relaxed, but refined and functional, kind of blending all that together. Kind of, where the idea come from for that to kind of be like what makes you drawn to that style, I guess I should ask.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think there's a lot of things, right? So, first of all, I am that type of person, right? So, I like things to be comfortable. I like people who come into my home to feel really comfortable. And I don't want everything to feel like just a showroom, right? Like, I think that your space should really reflect who you are. And so, for me personally, that's just like my personal signature style. And I think that because of that, that's a lot of the clients who are drawn to me, because they see my website and they see what I'm posting, and that's what draws them to me. But it doesn't necessarily have to be coastal. And I think that that's one of the things that I've been kind of working on within my business is like, I love to bring like nature in. So that's like a huge piece of it. So whether that's like the ocean, or the blue sky, or just like driftwood, or like really like different textures and like wood and things like that, I think that that's really what I want places to feel like I want them to be modern, but I want the spaces that I create to also feel like rustic and like lived in and relaxed, because at the end of the day we live in these spaces, so they should feel that way.
Yeah, that's really cool. So yeah, getting in touch with the earth in a sense and like bringing all
Yeah.
those elements together.
100%. Like I love to have greenery and
Yeah.
again, just different wood tones. I don't want everything to be like just shiny, right? Like you want it to be textured and have layers. And so that's my favorite thing to do, is to bring all that texture together.
Very cool. Well, so that kind of brings me to the question of like, what do you feel like your niche is, which we're kind of talking about that, but kind of like that ideal customer, who would you say that is?
Yeah. So, I do think again that like those that are like coastal modern, they tend to gravitate towards me, or like boho. I have like a boho flair a lot of times too, or like
Mhm.
mid-century. But in terms of like my ideal client, that has been all over the place, right? Like, I think that's the fun part, is that I've worked with so many people over the years, like whether it's friends and family or people who have been referred to me, whatever it may be. I've been really fortunate to work with a lot of different people. But what I've found is that those who benefit most from, having an interior designer just in general, and those that I work with, is someone who is a busy professional. So, they have a lot going on in a day. Maybe they have children, maybe they're running around, their job's just really demanding. Maybe they just like don't want to make the wrong decision. I think that I have a lot of that where it's like, I have a, I'll talk to a client and they'll say like, I have a pretty good sense of what my style is. Like I know my likes and my dislikes. However, I want it to all mesh together and I want it to look, curated and have the right scale and everything like that. So busy professionals who do tend to have a pretty good sense of their own style. That's usually who I work with. I also have and that's more so for like my, full service or like new build, new construction type clients. I also offer a package that's it's digital, so it's a digital design product, and that's more so for anyone. So I always say like that's a more accessible way to have a designer look. There's some DIY that goes into that. The clients that come to me for that are often like first time home buyers or second time, or they're going through some type of a transition in their life. Like maybe they're having a baby and they need a nursery put together, or renovating just one space in their house, whatever that may be. And so I work with, busy professionals in, the corporate world, and then those that are like just starting out or going through a transition.
Yeah. And I feel like I kind of fit into the category of the busy professional when you helped me with my office because
Mm-hmm.
I definitely, I was able to say, hey, this is like my style, this is what I'm looking for, but I was afraid of making the wrong decision. So that you hit the nail on the head. And I think a lot of people, I don't think I realized that's what it was, but yeah, it's definitely there. And, because you're like, gosh, I'm investing money into buying these different, pieces of furniture. And like, if you're going to paint, that's like all the time and effort to paint, or if you hired someone to do it, so it's like, you don't want to like make the wrong move and then have to like start over, or you spent money you can't get back or whatever. So yeah,
No, it's
it's
so true.
really
And
important.
there's nothing more frustrating than like ordering a piece of furniture and then like putting it together or getting it there and then realizing like it doesn't fit in the space or like doesn't fit through the front door or that the lighting, isn't right for that color of paint. And so I think that having a designer, help you with that, it just saves you honestly time and money and stress in the long run.
Mhm.
So that's why I have like two different packages, one that's like more accessible because I truly believe like everyone should have the opportunity to have a beautifully crafted home. Like you don't have to spend millions of dollars for it to still be beautiful and functional. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And you helped us with the paint for our house, particularly with the exterior, like that, just having someone alongside you to like, well, in my case, it was like talking me off the ledge because I thought it was going to be terrible. You're like, hold on, it's going to come together." I was like,
yes.
but the house is blue.
But you wanted it blue. I
Yeah.
know it's scary though. I totally get it. And it can be like shocking. You like walk in and it all looks different. It takes some time to just get used to it.
Yeah.
But and it's like all the small pieces coming together too, which is a really cool part of design is like, that's why you see on HGTV, it's like the grand reveal. Like that's like
Yeah.
the perfect way to like, set a client's
Yeah.
expectations up for success. Because if you see it midway through, it's sometimes real scary. Like you don't always want to see all the behind the scenes stuff that we have to do to get to that beautiful space.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Maybe you should implement an
Yes,
HGTV grand reveal.
I know. And just make everyone stay away until it's all done. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's, you were like to walk me through those points of like, because I would have had no idea, and your painters, like the people painting your house aren't gonna, that's not their job. Like, so it's just having a professional with experience is definitely an added bonus.
Yes.
So so okay, I know you're so great with new construction. Talk a little bit about like, that's a unique process to have a designer like with you kind of along that way of building a house. So what does that typically look like? Are you kind of from the start with the plans with the builder, or is it kind of like halfway through, or what's that process look like?
Yeah, good question. So ideally, I would be like the first decision made alongside of like deciding on a builder, right? And the reason for that is just because then from the very beginning, we're thinking through like what the furniture is going to look like at the end, how you want to live in that space, you know, how you're going to utilize your living room, all of those different things before we decide like where the windows are going to be. And the architect finalizes all the plans. So I love to work with clients at the front end of that process. However, like sometimes I come into the process when they have, you know, decided on a lot or a builder,
Mm-hmm.
and they might even have the plans in place. Like I'd love to look at the plans and help with some of that functionality. However, it doesn't always happen that way, and that's okay too. But usually, the way that I explain it is we work on like the hard surfaces first. So we're looking at like the exterior of the house, making the decisions around that. We're making decisions on like lighting and flooring, cabinetry, like those pieces that are going to like, you know, be in the house for a long time. That's where you start. And then you kind of transition into the furnishing. So I always do it in like two phases because the amount of decisions you have to make is a lot when you're building a home. I think people underestimate that. But I mean, the builder is going to ask you, especially if it's like custom or semi custom, they're going to ask you every single like, you know, what color do you want the hinges to be? Like, you know, the knobs, like what size do you want them? Where do you want them placed
Yeah.
on the cabinetry? So, you know, there's just a lot. And I think breaking it into two different pieces um, helps people to like have a little
Mm-hmm.
bit of like a mental break and like then move to the next piece. So
Yeah.
that's
That's
usually how I work with my clients that are new construction.
Yeah, so it sounds like, getting that base, that foundation right and perfect with, the exterior and the cabinetry and that stuff, and then moving to the finer details of, you know, hardware and lighting and tile and all that kind of,
Yep.
which is
And
really probably more
furnishings.
in
Yeah. And
furnishings, yeah.
furnishings. Yeah. Because I mean, yeah, it's like a very fun process. But again, if you've ever walked into like a Floor and Decor or even like a Home Depot and you like walk, I mean, you don't even know where to start. So I love to be at the front end of that process to help my clients kind of make those decisions and feel good about them from the start and see how everything's going to go together. I think that's a big piece too, is it's hard to visualize like how everything's going to look together. And so I
Yeah.
offer like 3D renderings, for example. And that's really helpful for someone who's a very visual person,
Mhm.
to be able to see like this is what it's going to look like in the end of the day.
Yeah, well, I mean, how do you I feel like you're like the way your brain works to be able to like pull all that stuff together, and like that just is amazing to me. Like how, you can walk into Lowe's and walk through the fixture department and see all the different, like there's like a million choices. Like it's amazing that you can like, pull all that together.
Well, I think the thing is though, is that, and this is something actually that I think is like, I don't want to say like a misconception, but I think that when
Mhm.
people think that I'm like an interior designer, especially like people from the corporate world, they're like, oh my gosh, you just play with like tiles all day long and like fabric. And then, you know, you just like wave a wand and then it's beautiful. And it's so different than that because it really starts. It's like I used to work in talent acquisition when I worked in corporate America, and it's like sort of the same thing. So like when I used to recruit team members to the team, right? Or like help someone build their team, I would like ask questions around like what they're looking for, you know, like what's important to you in a workplace, all of those different things. And that's the very front end of every
Mhm.
process, regardless of whatever I'm doing with a client, right? Like if we're doing a full build, a new construction project or one room, like I'm asking you a ton of questions at the very
Mhm.
beginning to understand like how you want that to look. So that when we walk in to, you know, wherever we're going to go to make selections, you know, I'm guiding you and I'm thinking through like this is what you want it to feel like, how you're going to function and, you know, use that space. So it's kind of like an art and a science, right? Like there's a lot of beautiful pieces and I love that piece, but a lot of it is like a science too, because you really have to like make sure that it fits the lifestyle and the function of that person as well. So
Yeah. that's really cool. I mean, I think that's something that a lot of people, like anyone in a service based, industry, when you're trying to pull this kind of information out of your client so that you can serve them better, it's like making sure you're asking the right questions, asking better questions, because that's the only way you're going to uncover what their wants and needs are. I mean, because sometimes it just can't even, it's hard to like form the words, and like as you ask those questions, then it like starts to come out of them. So that's really cool.
Yeah, I agree. And another thing that I do is I will show a ton of pictures in different styles, and I'll ask them to just stare at the picture, right? And like tell me, like, what do you like about this room? Like, what don't you like? And like, I'm taking notes, that a year down the road, when we're at the end of the project, I'm still thinking through the things that you said in that first conversation. So everything is like really thoughtful and strategic in the way that we're going to get to that end product that you're going to walk into and feel like, oh, it's beautiful. I love it. It feels like me. And that's the goal, right? Like you want to walk into
Yeah.
your home and it feels like you. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
mhm.
So, all right, so let's shift gears a little bit. I'd love to I'd love to hear like what's your favorite thing about having this business now?
Oh my goodness. Well, I love that it's like mine. I know that's a little selfish, right? But
No,
um
I'm with you on that.
yeah, it's
It's
just
your yeah.
really, yeah, it's like it's interesting because you're like the end of the road is with you. So, at the end of the day, whatever decision, whatever outcome in your business, you have to take accountability for that. And I think that that could be overwhelming to some people, but for me, I love it. And when I was in corporate America, that's one of the things that, I was hoping for with my business is that I can set the direction and the goals and like, you know, set it up the way that I want it to be, that's true to me. And you just can't do that in corporate America. Like you can like build
Mhm.
the culture of your specific team. I had several people who reported into me, but at the end of the day, we were like all on a ship going the same direction together for the company.
Yeah.
I just think it's really cool that now I can set that tone for my company and, focus on the things that I think are really important. So I guess
Yeah.
that's why
You're
that's what I love
you're
the
cap
most.
yeah, you're captaining your own ship now.
Yeah,
So
that's true. Yes, I am.
that's awesome. Yeah. So what's like what would you say your why is? Like what when you get up in the morning, you're excited to start your day, like what is that? What is it that drives you? Which you kind of maybe talked about a little bit there, but
Hmm. Yeah, I think it all ties together. It's like I'm so grateful that I don't know, that everything has kind of aligned for me to be able to wake up and just do this every day to like help people make their homes beautiful and functional. Like that's literally a dream of mine. It's like a dream come true. And so I just remember, the years that it took me to get here. And I'm just like grateful to finally be here. So it just drives me to continually like push to get better for my clients and like, you know, keep getting more education. I don't know. It's just like, I remember like when I used to be in corporate America, I worked from home and I would like kind of roll out of bed like 5 minutes before the day started. And I'd like roll downstairs. And now I'm like up and I'm like thinking through ideas. And I was up the night before reading or thinking about a project. And it's just really cool to feel happy and passionate and like on the right track? So,
yeah.
yeah.
So what would you say to someone else out there listening that's like has the dream and they're stuck in that corporate world or whatever it looks like,
Hmm.
to encourage them to take that step like you did and
Oh
start
my
the right
gosh.
thing?
Well, first of all, I don't think it's just like a leap of faith, right? Like I don't operate that way. So, I think that it's like strategic planning. Like you need to have a plan. And for me, it was like a 3-year plan, right? Like I didn't know exactly when it was going to end, like the plan to like actually finally jump, but I think just like tiny steps, right? Like get the experience, like work with all sorts of different people. Tell people what you're doing and just, see what doors open for you. Because I think that like for me, what made me feel like, okay, I'm on the right track and like this is the way that it's meant to go. It's just that like I was already working with clients. I was feeling busy. People were referring me to other people, which means that they were happy. And so I think that confidence is really helpful. And I think you can't really get that unless you like try first,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
But then eventually right? And then then you go. But for me, it was like really important to be like financially in a great place. And, like there were just like a lot of things personally for me that were really important to me. So, you
Yeah,
know.
that's a cool way to think about it, like making a strategic plan around it,
Mhm,
3 years or whatever that looks like. It's I think our culture, it's instant gratification. We want,
mhm,
and I mean, I'm guilty of that. Get impatient. I want something to happen right away in my business. And, it's a long-term investment in yourself. And
mhm,
you took the time to like think through, all right, what does that look like? If I'm going to feel confident to make this change, what do my finances need to look like?
mhm.
What is just all those moving parts. So that's a really good reminder to like for people to sit down and make a plan. You're like writing out goals like that. You're more likely to stick to it and
Yeah.
take the necessary actions, like get yourself to that point. So
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge life decision. Like, you can't, in my mind, like, again, everyone functions differently, but like, for me, it just was really important to have a plan and like also have education. Like, I didn't feel like I could just because I've, done this for a couple of years doesn't mean that I can just like go out and call myself an interior designer, like me personally. Like, some people do that, but for me, I wanted to
yeah,
go through a program and learn the details and learn how to 3D render and like put in the work, like, and now I feel like I'm so much more thankful and grateful to be where I'm at and more comfortable, right? Too. Like, I can like take the time and space to, work on the things that I need to work on in my business and not feel like, oh my gosh, like, how am I going to pay the bills this week, or month?
yeah,
It's just
yeah.
important.
I mean, that's stressful to like the
Yeah.
financial piece of this can be very stressful. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, so okay, so since you've quit the other job, being full time, and that's been this year
Mm-hmm.
basically. Um, how have you seen your business grow? Like you're able to focus all of your attention on it instead of like balancing acts. So how have you seen it grow with being able to do that?
I know. Where does all the time go though, right? Like, I'm like, how did I do this and the other thing and all the other things? Definitely like no shortage of like things to do when you run a business. You know this. It's like crazy. You don't have a
Mhm.
team. Like, I don't have a marketing team, or if I
Yeah.
don't post on social media, nobody's doing it. Like, if I don't source some, items for that client, they won't just show up. So there's like so much. And I think like where I've been focused is really like making sure that like all of my like policies and procedures and like templates and communication, like, for me it's been really important to get all of that like really well defined and kind of a well-oiled machine, because I want to serve my clients. I want to build a really strong and great reputation. And then I want to be able to hire a team member and have them set up for success. So, it's corporate, right? Like, these are things I learned in corporate America, but I've taken them with me into this. And I think that that's where I've really been spending a lot of my time. I'm doing like the design and all of that as well. But on the back end, I'm thinking, okay, like, this is a business that I want to scale and grow. So everything needs to look how I want it, and be organized.
Yeah, building blocks of the business so that you have longevity, it's
Mm-hmm.
sustainable and scalable, like what you're talking about, being able to have team members to help you out. Because, you know, if you do want to grow, then you have to learn how to scale yourself because you just will only have so much capacity as an individual person. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like you kind of have to match whatever those dreams are, you have to match, your actions around that so that you can get there one day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, so what's some long-term dreams then for the business?
Oh my gosh, I've been dreaming forever. Um, Gosh,
Like
I don't know.
in
Like,
5 years, in five
I
years,
know.
what does it look like?
I'm like, I'm living in my dream. No, I definitely, so I don't want to be like this huge company. Like, I don't want to have like a team of, 30 people and like build an empire, if you will. Like, none of that's super, super important to me. But what is important to me is to stay like, I want to always be like connected to my client. Like, somehow I always want to feel like I'm still involved in the design process.
Mm-hmm.
So I never want to get so far removed from that. But in terms of like just goals, like, 5 years, I'd love to have maybe one or two team members on the team. And then I would also love to get into like short term rentals. I'd love to like, not own them necessarily, but I'd love to design them and kind of be like a go to person for that because I think that that really fits with my aesthetic and what I love to do and what comes easily to me really at the end of the
Yeah,
day.
that's cool.
Um, and then I would love to have a storefront at some point in St. Pete. Like,
Ooh.
ultimate dream would be so cool. Yeah, so I don't know. Or e-commerce. I just like love curating like collections of things
Mhm.
and I would just love to like sell them. I just don't know exactly how that would all work.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I'm dreaming, there it is.
Yeah, I love it. I love those dreams. Very cool.
Yes.
All right, so what's like a typical day look like for you? You get up, start work, kind of what's typical day like?
Yes. So let's see. So every day is a little different, but a typical day, right, is something like I wake up, I have coffee, I usually take a walk with the pups, check my emails like when I come back. And then I kind of get into like the work day, right? So I'm responding to emails, like kind of seeing what's going on, looking at my calendar. Usually I have some like consults or at least conversations with potential clients. So I like to start my day out with those. And then I move into like going onto the sites and like seeing what's going on or like meeting with the vendors or whatever on site or client meetings in person. Um, and then usually I like end my day coming home and, I'll usually like, again, check all of my emails and just make sure that everything's kind of wrapped up for the day so that the
Mhm.
next day I feel like I'm in a good place to wake up and do it all again.
Yay! Which is so fun because
It
it's all
is.
yours. You can do whatever you want with
Yep. It's so true. It is. Yep.
it. Awesome. Well, this has been such a fun conversation, and I love I even learned stuff that I didn't know. So that's really cool just to kind of peel back the curtain and learn like how your brain works and how exciting this is for you. Um, yeah. So okay. So I like to end the conversation with some like hot hot seat questions all about St. Pete. So
Okay. Love it.
all right. So where's your favorite spot to go for a night out?
For a night out, probably like I love to go to like Green Bench and sit
Mhm.
outside. It's just so nice and just like walk around that whole area. Um, yeah, that's probably like where we're going if it's a night out, my husband and I, or we're like going for a walk down at Vinoy and then ending with like, a beer or a glass of wine
Yeah.
at Green Bench.
Yeah, because we know you like breweries, so
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes. Yep. And I love that they have the option of beer or wine there. So depending on how
Yeah.
you're feeling, you can have both.
Mhm. Yeah. All right, cool. What's your favorite pizza place?
This is tough.
I know
I
it's
love,
always tough for
it's
people.
hard. I know. So I love Noble Crust and they
Mhm.
have this honey chili sauce that they put on their pizza and it's so good. So like that sticks in my mind. But I also love Paul's Chicago Pizza. I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's
I don't
north
think so.
on 4th Street. When we first moved here, we lived in between Tampa and St. Pete and Gandy. And so it's up
Mhm.
there. And a pepperoni and mushroom pizza from there. So good. And then they have the best Greek salad. And I know this is like a controversial topic, but like I love that they put potato salad in their Greek salad. So good. So
Oh,
those are my two
interesting.
faves. Hmm.
Okay. Very
Yep.
cool. All right. So when you do get a day off, what's your favorite thing to do?
Hmm. So sleep in and then wake up, hang with the pups. And I love to, like, again, go for a walk, listen to my podcast, lay by the pool, and then a sunset. Like, I love to go to sunset. So go to like Passe Grill and just like sit on the water and relax. That's a perfect day to me. And maybe some like yoga. I've been going to Hot Works.
Mhm.
And so if you can get a good workout in, it feels good. You feel like, you've accomplished something. So that's a perfect day for me.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful.
Oh, and
Mm,
some good food. There's so much good food to be
yeah.
had. So brunch or something somewhere, probably with you. You and Steven.
Probably so, yes.
Yep.
Yeah, we all make our rounds to the amazing restaurants that we have here.
Yes. Yes. So self-proclaimed foodies, right?
Yes, absolutely.
hmm
Awesome. Well, thanks, Nicole, for sitting down with me and kind of letting everyone in on your life and your business. I love to hear your goals and your dreams, and it sounds like you're just working hard every day to build what you want to build. So, congratulations.
Thank you so much. And thanks for having me.
All right, thanks, guys. We'll catch you next time. Bye.
All right. Bye.